Our next speaker, Mr. Eric Sauder, got his Master's of Science Architectural Engineering from Penn State. He then co-founded New Leaf Initiative in August of 2012. He chose to start New Leaf to create neutral space for the State College community to connect complementary resources and bring new ideas to life. Mr. Eric Sauder.
Good evening, everybody. How are you all? Good. Can I get a quick show of hands? Who are students here? Okay, very good. Who are community members? Okay, awesome. There's some of both. I encourage you to meet each other afterwards, because that's a lot of what we'll talk about here today. It's been a very important thing to me. So, as we hear my command, as we look at the things that we're talking about and facing the reality of climate change, I believe the case is really clear. And it demands action, and it demands that we do something about it. And I think in the face of that, this is a really hard challenge. So he talked about, get out and do something. Get out and, make a difference. And then the video is over. And it's hard. And I've felt really paralyzed by this a lot. And so if you're in that place now, it's some of what I want to talk about today. Because I'm still working through how to figure out what valuable things actually are to do. These problems seem immense. And in the face of it all, it seems like anything that we do seems kind of small. And I feel like I've been working to try to make the world a more sustainable place for a little while now. And actually, I think it's just a lot more carbony than if I wouldn't be here. So how do you balance these things? Like, how do you not get paralyzed by this guilt? So I want to talk a bit today about making a vision for seeing the world be a better place in terms of climate into a vocation that is something that we actually live out and do. And this is an experiment. This is something that I'm still very much in the path of, so I only take my ideas with a grain of salt. So I wanted to share a little bit about my story and a couple suggestions for engagement and places to get involved here. So when I came to Penn State, I wanted to make the world a better place. And I didn't know what that looked like, and I didn't know what it meant. But I wanted to try to start doing things. I got involved in a bunch of things with the then Center for Sustainability, now Sustainability Institute. Worked on a lot of different sustainable housing projects and really found an interest in the built environment and how we build the things that we interact with in a day-to-day life, how we make them more sustainable. Through that involvement, I got plugged into different parts of our community. I got involved in different affordable housing issues. I saw the capacity that we have here at the university for design. I saw the wealth of resources we have in the community in for-profit and non-profit organizations. And one of the things that I saw that was a big frustration for me was it felt that there was a big gap between the resources that we have and what we're able to do with them as a community. And this isn't a community scale thing. This is a global world kind of thing. I got to hear an astronaut speak, which was a childhood dream of mine. His name's Ron Guerin, and he talked about this vision of an orbital perspective. He spent like 144 days on the space station, and he talked about looking at the Earth without any political boundaries or things that we're used to with maps, and just how it all seemed so small, and it seemed that there were more than enough resources on this planet for all of us to be fed. And at the very least, there shouldn't be 1 billion people going to bed hungry every night. We should be able to figure this out. So this is a real challenge that's weighed on my mind. How do we take the resources that we have and arrange them in a way that meets these challenges? So that's really the energy that and ideas that was behind our thinking when we started New Leaf Initiative. It's a nonprofit here in State College that is still trying to figure these things out. And it was very clear from the beginning that we had no idea what we were doing. And it's an experiment, and it's an ongoing attempt to try to build bridges between these different parts of our community. And the one thing that I don't think I realized is how complex this idea of starting things is, and how untrained I was to do that. I think we do an awful lot here at the university to teach specific skills training. And so we have a lot of programs that teach about like the water resources or the built environment or these other things. And I think it's really interesting that I get to speak after Laura. I think there's so much importance in mediation and the work to figure out how to connect these resources to each other that we're really missing in our communities. I didn't realize the time that it would take. I didn't realize the patience that it would require, or the boundless energy that would have to be expelled to do something about this. To shorten the story of New Leaf, we're entering our 4th year and we're just starting to figure some things out. We opened a co-working office downtown that is a place for community members and students and all kinds of people with ideas to come and do their work. And hopefully people will run into each other, and we call them happy collisions will happen out of that. And people will find ways, and we will hopefully be able to make connections and spark new things out of that to help this room and our communities to really carry out the visions that you all have for how to make the world a more sustainable place. So I wanted to share a couple observations that I've had over the past couple of years in starting this. The first one is don't forget the value of a vision. Ideas are really important. And the people that are in this room, you're here because you've caught the vision of how important this is. There's a lot of people that aren't here. There's a lot of people that haven't seen that. So don't forget the importance of finding that value. Second, doing something with that vision is a really hard next step. And I don't know how to make it easier. We talked about training for technical proficiency, but it's really hard, and I think one of the things that we need to do a lot better is figure out how to train for trying new things and venturing out a little bit past what we're comfortable with, and risking something for something good. Third, this takes experimentation. And experimentation often means failure. But I want to encourage you that failure isn't the end of things. And oftentimes it's the beginning of the next thing that might be a better thing. And it might also lead to a failure too. But one of the things that this continual experimentation helps you to do is it grows your capacity to try new things, to take risks, and to make that change. Fourth, and we've covered some of this before, this isn't going to be too much of a surprise, but the problem and the solution are bigger than you are, and I am. So these things are massive in scope. This is the world that we're talking about, and it's a global challenge. But I would encourage you to not be paralyzed by that, but to be free. This is the thing that we are all taking part of and that we are all participating in. So don't let the immensity of the challenge be the thing that keeps you from taking a first step on it. And fifth, this is very related to that, and I think it's the conclusion that I've wrestled with, how we work with these tremendously huge problems. And that is that I believe it takes a community to do anything about them. I think we need to figure out how to break out of the areas of comfort that we're in, cross lines between different sectors or disciplines. There's a lot of people that are doing very similar things at the university that don't know about each other, or the same thing happens in town that don't know that these parallel efforts are happening that are mutually beneficial when we work together. Or I think one of the most important things is between generations. One thing that I've gotten to notice in my work that's most exciting to me is a tremendously awesome potential pairing between two generations in our communities. One that has been fired up about changing the system for a long time, many years, and has a lot of work already that they've done in this. Their kids are maybe off to school, and time is opening up again, and they're looking at the world again and saying, what do we do now? Like, where do we plug in? And they're noticing the same energy in you all, students, that are excited about this and passionate and feel like this is something really important. And one thing, many of you don't know each other. So students, again, raise your hands. I get to speak in some classes, and this is a fun experiment. So keep your hands up if you should always think about how you're going to run an experiment. So stand. Yes, that's a great idea, because then you can actually see things. So the students are here, and everyone else find a student afterwards. But now, sit down if you know 2 or fewer community members. Does that make sense? Wow. So the folks that are still standing know more than 2 community members. Okay, so sit down. Thank you very much. Community members, up. Now do the same thing, but you're with students, not community members. So if you know 2 or fewer. Okay. We're doing pretty well there. Many of you are professors. That is hard. Okay, sit down. We get the point. This has been a real challenge, I think, but it's a real exciting opportunity for good things to happen by bringing these energies together through everything good that has happened with New Leaf to this point is because of really positive intergenerational collaboration, and I hope that it keeps increasing and keeps being so. So please meet each other afterwards. I was going to leave you with action items. That was one of them. The second one is think of something that you have wanted to do that you haven't tried yet, that you believe is an accomplishable scope in a month. And try that. The reason I set the month limit is because if it gets too big, it's crazy. And it's good to have crazy things. So you keep that on the back burner. But one of the things that I think is really important is in trying new things to have wins. And to have something that you did and it worked and it was great. Or you did and it failed and now you can try it again and have another one of those iterations. That's important too. And don't despair. But try things. And in that process, also try to step out of your comfort zone, whatever that is. Try to push that thing a little bit past what you're accustomed to. Maybe it's meeting someone new that also has a similar interest. If a forum to do that would be helpful, New Leaf is an open space for people to come and talk about these things. We're located in the Berta building in State College, downtown. is where you pay your parking tickets, but upstairs. So please, this is really important stuff, and I care about it deeply. One of the things that I feel unfortunate in my current position, I am a host of New Leaf. I am a facilitator and convener. I like to bring people together, but I don't actually get to do anything. I don't get to work on projects. I don't get to really see the change come to life myself that I really believe in and care about. So I'm asking all of you to get engaged in these things so I can be connected and energized by it again. So thank you all for your time. Do you have any questions?
How do you scale all this up, you know? I mean, you talk about this was Penn College. There's actual policy on energy use, on fuel industry, whether use fossil fuels, pipelines from Canada. You see individuals like Musk, for example. I mean, there's one person that can really kind of change the world. But how do we scale up, all the field goods sort of stuff that we have? That you're talking about building relationships. And the world is still going to be going to hell all around us. We make it in some kind of box.
No, this is true. One of the things that I've had to come to terms with is to understand business and business models, and that's been one of the hard things about New Leaf, to actually create a business model that is self-sustaining, and it's taken a long time for us to do that, or to come to terms that we actually have to. But the hope with that is that if we can create spaces like this that can be replicated and adopted in other places, I hope our model can get stolen really quickly. And I'm excited about this, looking at different local movements. I'm excited about how the local food workings are just spreading like wildfire. And I think it's a very different model than what we've seen before in sort of like big corporate sorts of things, where you have IP and you have this deep desire to, not share anything. I think what we're going to see with this new culture of businesses is more models that people are being very open with. This is what's working. I see collaboration between farmers that doesn't make sense. Farmers that should be competitors that are saying, hey, try this. Like, this is working for us. This could work for you. Because they're recognizing the importance of this shared vision together, and they're recognizing that if both of us are doing better, this whole thing is doing better. So I think change needs to and will happen at all different levels. And you see that with the people that are talking here tonight. The thing that I care about most is these really local communities and how we can see excitement and regeneration and rebirth in them that hopefully will be contagious. Anybody else? Thank you. Yeah.
Could you give us an example of an intergenerational, a generational relationship, what came from it, what happened, what you're focusing on?
Yeah. A big one has been with housing stuff, because there's been such a long-standing work in this community with housing efforts, and so we've gotten to see a bunch of students and community members that are working together to really plan action steps for how do we do something about this? Like, how do we use resources from the university and from nonprofits and for-profits, and how do we combine all these things in a way that would be transformative?
housing, do you mean like putting people in homes or?
In affordable, sustainable housing in this region. It's been a tough 3-4 years in State College of housing. A bunch of mobile home parks, a bunch of options that have been, doors that have been closed, and it's not getting better. So I think that's been a space where we've gotten to see a lot of people come from different spaces. It's one that I think has the most exciting, some of the most exciting potential, but certainly isn't fully delivered yet. But yeah, it's really, some really cool stuff can happen here. Anybody else?